Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 283 of the Better on Draft podcast. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. If you're listening via the podcast, you can join us live 7 p.m. Eastern over at facebook.com/Better on Draft. And if you want to see everyone that we're interviewing in the future, just go to betterondraft.com/events and see all of our upcoming podcasts. With that in mind, let's go over and see what everyone is drinking, starting with Wendy. Wendy, what do you got over there?
I am drinking a Hefeweizen from Live Oak Brewing.
All right. And Dan, what about you?
I'm, double fisting because it's 88 degrees and 4 in the afternoon. So why not? I've got a Bamberger. I think I'm saying that correctly, from Live Oak. And then I've got the smoked black lager as well.
All right. And for me, this may be the last week. We all cross our fingers and hope, but I've got a Hobby Amber from Brooklyn Brewing, probably one of my favorite NA beers I've ever had. And I also found, brand new to the state at least, Witt's Peak, which is a NA wit beer. And I also got a Guinness 00 that I will be drinking here soon. With that in mind, obviously, if you couldn't tell who our guest was going to be, with Wendy and Dan both drinking a beer from Texas, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, where you work, and what you do over there.
My name is Dusan. I work at Live Oak Brewing Company in Austin, Texas, and I'm the production manager, head brewer, and I've been there for a little while. I'm in my 15th year here. And I'm drinking some Schwarzer Rauch.
Awesome. Now, we know that you joined Live Oak back in 2008. Prior to that, what were you doing? Were you a home brewer? Were you brewing at another facility? Kind of give us a little bit of a history pre-Live Oak.
Brewing pre-Live Oak, I started making beer with my friends in college and mostly made ales and English-style beers. I didn't really even make lager beer when I was home brewing. I did that for probably 3 or 4 years and kind of tailed off a little bit, and I was finishing school at UT and was kind of starting to get back into it. And then I was kind of also looking for maybe getting a job in a brewery and learning a little bit more than I knew at the time. And I went and bothered Brian Peters, who was brewing over at Uncle Billy's at the time, and he gave me a contact. It was a guy making root beer next to Old Live Oak, and then he gave me Steve's information, and so Steve Anderson hired me in 2008, and I hadn't really. I mean, I've started recently home brewing with my friend Hap over the last year and a half maybe. But since I started working at Live Oak, I had not made beer at home. Yeah.
Awesome. We just brought Nick in. Nick, what are you drinking over there?
Can you guys hear me?
Barely. You sound like you're in a vestibule.
Hold on, wait. How about now?
Church reference?
Yeah, there we go.
There we
go.
go.
I don't know where my headphones disappeared to, so I'm using my work ones here. Yeah, I'm great. Awesome. Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated. What am I drinking tonight? I am drinking a Live Oak Pils.
Some pills.
And this can with an H on it.
Mystery beer. All right.
The mystery beer.
The Hefeweizen.
That's the Hefeweizen from Live Oak.
Yep. So back to you, Dusan. I kind of want to ask, because a lot of people, when they move from home brewing to production brewing, what was one of the biggest things that kind of shocked you or opened your eyes, like the differences of home brewing for someone that maybe is looking to open up a brewery themselves, but the big scary brew system might turn them away?
Scary is kind of a good word. I mean, it's dangerous. There's a lot more things that can hurt you in a production brewery compared. I mean, I guess you can hurt yourself in your kitchen too, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more utilities and tools that you have to manage. As far as making lots of beer, I don't know. It's, I guess I had a pretty big gap in between, I mean, at least a couple of years before when I was making it home and working at Live Oak. But I mean, the first couple of years at Live Oak, I was just washing kegs. So I kind of eased into the beer handling part of it too. Over there, was washing kegs pretty much exclusively for just like, almost 2 years probably. And then started filtering and doing cellar work and running the cellar for a couple of years, and then started brewing and handling yeast, doing that for a couple of years. And then Steve went to go start Big Bend out in Alpine and started taking over on the hot side, I guess, all the production stuff, all the scheduling, and then just kind of been doing that. And then we built a new brewery, and that was a whole deal. But I've still basically been doing the same thing since Steve left.
Well, before we get into some of the beers that you sent us that everyone is drinking, there is a question that Rob wanted me to ask you before, as people know, Rob is not on the show today. But back on episode 254, we actually had your guys' Black is Beautiful on the episode of Better on Draft. What was the charity that you guys raised money for that Black is Beautiful? And what kind of variation did you put on that beer?
We've done it 2 years in a row, and we'll do it again. We'll basically be doing it once a year. Both years went to the Austin Justice Coalition here in Austin, and the variation of the beer, we don't make a lot of English beers or big beers, and we were brewing it in the summertime, so it was trying to make it kind of in our wheelhouse, so we know we could make it and make it good. So we kept the hops the same, the all Cascade, and lowered the gravity a little bit and made it a lager, which I ran by Marcus just to make sure that was cool before we did that. And so it's kind of like a American hopped Schwarzbier, Fest beer, hybrid kind of beer.
And what was the reason for choosing that charity, the Austin, what was it again?
Austin Justice Coalition.
Okay.
We wanted somebody that was doing stuff in town to start, and we've just kept giving to them, and we'll probably do the same again this year. I think it's a little over $2,500 off of each batch.
Awesome.
So we're around 5 and counting now. We'll probably brew it a little bit later in this year and have it come out in the fall, because a dark beer in August and July in Texas is a little I don't know.
Oh, I'm going to pass it to Dan, because Dan is one of those people who believes stout season is all year long.
It is. There's if implying there's a stout season means there's an IPA off season, but you see everyone drinking 576 IPAs in December. But yeah, so I want to talk to you about these smoke beers. So can you tell us a little bit about these? These are a pretty unique beer compared to what most breweries do. Can you go into a little bit about the detail and the history of how you came up with these?
Yeah. So I think Chip has been to, he went to Germany back in the 80s and went through Bamberg, and smoke beer popped up on his radar. And then more recently, when Live Oak was around, I think in like 2007, we had a hard time getting malt and hops. Chip started going over to the Brau annual trade show in Nuremberg, and he started to stay a little north of Nuremberg and Bamberg and take the train in for the trade show and back. So you'd get to, wind up in Bamberg every day after the trade show. So like a solid week in Bamberg drinking Schlinkerla and Spezial smoke beers every day. You kind of like, I don't know, you get kind of accustomed to it. And it's just not a style of beer that you come across that often, especially it being like, I mean, there's beers with smoke on them, but they're not like the lager, the clean, well-made, fresh lager beer is not quite as common. And so we started making smoke beer, I think like 2012. I think Nico Tonks was brewing at Live Oak at the time, and we went down to Ranger Creek and took some of our Munich and Vienna malt and used their like shipping container smoke box, kind of a proof of concept sort of thing. We made our smoke fest with that malt, and then we were able to get the Beechwood and best the best Beechwood smoke malt. And I think we made a Lichtenheiner, and then we made the smoked Helles. And then since we've been at the new brewery, we're making like 20 barrels of beers for the tap room. And with the outlet of selling beer to go and having a tap room, we're able to do, move a couple 20 barrel batches of smoked beer in like a couple months. And so it stays fresh and we sell all of it. We were making 30 barrels of some of these smoked beers at the old brewery, and we didn't always sell all of them, but we kept making them. And I think it's maybe slightly gaining traction now, maybe. But we just kind of keep, like Chip always says, we'll keep making them until people start drinking them.
So people start drinking them, right? Do you mean until they stop drinking them?
No, until they start.
Until they start. Oh, yeah. Okay. What was the reception like for these? Were people put off of it at first because it's not something you typically find anywhere, or how did your customers react to them?
It's not for everybody, and some people just really don't like it, and some people do. I think at beer festivals, you have somebody who's kind of there to try a bunch of beers, and they're already kind of like have a more open mind, and so they're more well received in like environments like that. But I think since we've been doing it every year, I think the people that come in and have a smoked beer, they kind of know that's kind of our, one of the things that we're driving home. So they're more interested in it than they have ever been now, but it still feels like it's like a slow curve, but we're able to, we don't do every single smoked beer that we do every year. We'll add bring back a couple of the classics and maybe do one or two new ones, but we always try to cluster them together in January because we have our Rauchfest, and trying to showcase smoked beer and make a big deal out of it. And people are drinking more of it every year. It's not a lot, but it's more than it used to be, for sure.
Awesome. Now, another style of beer that you make I want to talk about, I wish I had one in front of me here, is your pre-war pills. Can you tell us a little bit about that and tell everyone the reasoning behind that name and what makes it different between like a pills from today?
Yeah, we'd been looking forward to making an early American style beer. I guess kind of since we started making the German pills, because we'd always made the Czech pill since 1997, and then we started making the German pills, and then I think a pills with a little lower bitterness and a corn adjunct was pretty tempting. We got some brewer's grits from Missouri, and then in 19, I think we started putting pre-war in cans. It was our summer seasonal. It still has a seasonal UPC, but we just started making it all the time because it was doing really well. And we got a recipe from a brewer or descendant of a brewer, a lady named Paula in DC area, whose grandfather brewed for like 7 breweries in like the early, I forget when his career, but it was like right around the beginning of the 1900s. And it was like the recipe is like from 1911, 1912. But it's a rough recipe. It was just kind of like a ratio of grits to barley and what the hops were. And so we kind of, worked with that. And I mean, it's a pretty simple beer. It's just the pills, barley, corn, and middle fruit, and not too bitter. And the Pre-Pro is the name that you always see around in Texas. The state law, one of the things that you couldn't name a beer until kind of recently was pre-war, because it referenced a certain, it used to be something where you would see it on a label and it would like reference the strength of the beer. So it was like a misleading labeling term to make people think that it was like higher gravity. And so you couldn't use like pre-war strength, that was not allowed to be used, but they changed the rules and rewrote some of the what you could label, and so pre-war was okay. So that's why we picked that, because it was recently illegal, but it means like the same thing. And we were focusing on the war because I mean prohibition was pretty lousy, but compared to the war, it was not that big of a deal. So the war was a bigger deal to people at the time. So we're referencing that period of time with that marker. So.
Awesome. Now, I did notice that you use a decoction mash, for this type of beer. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? A lot of people are not familiar with that style of mash when it comes to making beer.
Yeah, decoction mashing is it's kind of an old school method for you can use it for compensating for lack of instruments, because you have your malt ratios and you're blending to temperature, and but you're boiling part of the mash and then adding it back to the main mash and stepping through the temperatures for the enzyme action, and as opposed to just like using a steam jacket to heat up the mash. And when you boil the mash, you get a little bit of Maillard reaction and a little more flavor and a little more color. It's pretty subtle difference. It's not extreme, but we do a single decoction on all the beers that we do a decoction on, except for the Czech Pills gets 2 decoctions. So we'll boil the mash twice on that one.
Awesome. Wendy, I'm going to pass it to you. I believe you have a question.
Yeah, actually, I want to talk about this Hefeweizen. So I see on the website that you won an award from the GABF in 2019 for the Hef.
Mm-hmm.
And it's current. I'm not sure if it's currently rated or if it was. I'm not sure how that works. Is number 2 in the world according to Beer Advocate.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell us about it a little bit?
The Hef is our biggest seller by volume. And I think the reason why it's so good is because we make it all the time, and it is a beer that benefits the most from being fresh. We started making it as like a seasonal, and it wasn't very popular. And then 1 year we made it, and people started, we sold it pretty quick, and then made more next year, and it quickly took over. This was like mid 2000s, I guess, ish. And then by, let's see, probably around the time when I started, maybe a little bit after, Hefeweizen got to like over 60% of the total volume barrels. So, and it's been climbing a little bit more, not quite to 70, but it's our biggest volume seller. It's half wheat, half barley, and the Weihenstephaner Hefeweizen yeast. It's a traditional German style Hefeweizen that tastes exactly like a German Hefeweizen when you go over there and drink one. Yeah.
That's awesome. Hef is my favorite style of beer, so I was really excited to see that. It's also what I use to kind of test whether or not I really like the beer that's coming out of a brewery. So, well done. And
thanks. Tastes all right.
My next question though, is about the brewery itself, because I'm a big traveler. I like to go and visit different breweries in different states, and just I think it gives you a really good feel for where you're at and the place you're at. So, what is it about your brewery that would make a beer traveler want to come visit?
Well, we're set up for people to post up and spend a lot of time at Live Oak, and we have probably like 40 or 50 beer tables out in the beer gardens. The brewery sits on 22 acres right across the street from the airport, just on the north side, and we're up along the Colorado River. And we've got, we always have our year-round beers pouring at the tap room, obviously, and then we also have a bunch of limited beers that we just sell in the tap room. Some of the smoked beers make it out into the world, but most of the taproom releases probably last for a couple months, and just get them there. And we have 13-hole disc golf course, which is not a gimme course. It's pretty fun, and there's lots of live oaks on the property. It's a sweet slice of land that, even if you don't play disc golf, it's nice to just take a walk in the back. We have food on the weekends from a Black Forest food truck that's kind of German-ish kind of food that's really good. So if you're here on the weekends, you can eat that as well. Yeah.
What was the reasoning behind 13 holes? Because that's not even any standard disc golf length. Usually, it's 9, 18, or 24.
You can have a sanctioned PGDA tournament if you have 13 holes.
Really? Do you have sanctioned PDGA? Yes, I said that. Tournaments.
Get the acronym right, Ken.
I know. I have a PDGA number too, but I was trying to say it so fast in my head, I'm like, it doesn't sound right.
We've had 2. We have another one in July. And we've had the 13-hole setup since the beginning of 2020. Last October, we hosted a bunch of mini tournaments every day for the week of the National Amateur Disc Golf Championship that was in Austin. It'll be again in Austin in October this year. And we had like all the players party for the whole tournament at the brewery on Saturday night. There was like 2,000 disc golfers all drinking beer at Live Oak and looking at discs, and yeah, it was pretty wild. So we'll have that again in the fall. But we have a lot of disc golf courses right by us too. There's Roy G and Met Center, just like right a caddy corner across the street from the airport. And we're also like a 5-minute ride from the terminal, just like across the street. You don't have to even get on the highway. So it's really good to post up and pick somebody up from a flight there, or just Uber to the brewery and figure out what you're going to do from there. And we're open every day.
Sorry, Wendy, I had to cut in and ask about that.
That's okay. I always wonder what it is about disc golf and breweries, because I know quite a few breweries that have teams or something to do with disc golf. So, so for a brewery, sorry, I can't talk today. For a brewery that's been open for 25 years, we noticed you don't have too many beers on Untappd, roughly 70. For a customer who's always looking for something new and exciting, how do you bring them back?
Bring them back. Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, the only thing that we're really doing new regularly is in the tap room, but I think most of our repeat customers are just coming back because we make a couple things consistently. I don't know. We've been making, Pils and Hefe since we were we were the only production brewery in Austin for a little while. There was a brew pub, but I guess there's a lot of new drinkers that haven't really been in town for as long as Live Oak's been around too. But I don't know. I think they just come back and know where to get some Hefe and Pils when they want it. And even most of the limited beers that are new, they're all kind of, there's a lot of subtle differences with those two, because a lot of them are Pilsners that have, they're all Pilsners, but they're subtly different. So I don't know.
Okay. Well, I think that a lot of loyalty comes from consistency too. I had a friend at one time that when you would ask him how his beer was, he would say it's consistently delicious, which is really what a loyal customer is looking for. Is they can go and get what they want, and they know it's going to be the same when they go. Nick, did you have something?
I think that's all we have going for us.
I'm sure there's more.
Yeah, I got a question or two. Piggybacking really quickly on the disc golf course, because that Ken and I we disc golf on occasion. The back of the course being up against the Colorado River, and there's a big ledge there. Yeah. Has anyone lost any discs off of that crazy ledge into the river?
I'm sure. I don't know about all the way down into the river, but it's so steep. Once you can't see them, they're dangerous. I've lost several free tails on one of the holes, and I stopped throwing that disc on that hole so I don't lose any more. But it's quite a hazard.
Oof. Well, if to anyone that's listening and or watching on our socials, I encourage you, go to Live Oak's website, find the disc golf course map, and you will see where the Colorado River is. It's impending doom. Basically, they're warning you. There's a ledge there. Be careful. So check that out if you're on the socials or watching live right now. Now let's get back to the fun topic, the other fun topic, the beer. Have you done any kind of? I'm a big fan of collaborations with other breweries, or even we got some social groups here in southeastern Michigan. Wendy is part of some Girls Pint Out. I know we've on the show have brewed as well. Have you guys done any big collaborations? Being around in the last 25 years, I would imagine you guys have done your fair share of collaborations, and if so, with whom?
We've done. I think we're a little newer and a little less prolific with the collaborations, but we do them. We've been, I guess, dialing it up since the end of 2019 when our state laws changed and we could sell beer to go. Then we could do small variants and have an outlet for them, because through the main distribution channel is difficult, takes a lot of admin time and yada yada, and for such a small volume. Let's see. The last couple of years we've done a good bit. I think one of the coolest ones that we've done after, I think early 2018, we got in touch with the Brovar Grodzitsk breweries, the original Grodzicki breweries in Grodzitsk, just south, like 40 minutes south of Poznan, Poland. They got their hands on a can of beer. A Polish beer writer got his hands on a can of beer, and they saw him review it, and they reached out to us, and they had brought the brewery back into operation in 2016. I think it closed in 91. And so we went over there in 2018 and brewed a Grodzitsk variation at the Grodz brewery, which was super cool. And we went down to south of the brewery to the maltster that is making the smoked wheat malt for the brewery. That's the only thing that they didn't bring back from Ruin was the malt house. And so we got to see them where they make the smoked wheat malt, which is what we buy their extra couple pallets at every batch that they make like twice a year. And so that's enough for us to make Grodzicki all the time. So we're making it with the traditional smoked wheat malt made with the traditional recipe. Let's see, we did a cool collaboration with Riggs Brewery last year, 2021, where we bought some of their 6-row that they grew on their farm and brewery, and made a pre-war style beer with their 6-row, which is the original malt. We don't use that in our pre-war. We use our Czech-based malt. We tried it with the 6-row, but it's very similar, maybe not quite as good, and more expensive to buy 6-row than your base malt, which is kind of defeats the purpose. But so we got their 6-row and made that beer, called it 6-row Pils. We made a Pils with it, and they came down. I think our first brewery visitors in a while at the beginning of 21. So that was really cool. And we've been stacking them up around town too. We just brewed a potato lager with Holdout Brewing, which was fun. We were learning about all the adjuncts that were used over the tough. But there were a lot of just out of necessity, wartime, like they need the wheat and barley to make food, so you gotta supplement. So a lot of learning that I was like North Germany was making some adjunct beers with rice and potatoes. So we made Spudweiser, which was fun.
Oh, brother, that name. Where's Matt Bush when you need him, Ken? With a name like that, since he's the naming master.
I think he would have given a round of applause on that one.
Yeah, he would have. You touched base on distribution. You guys have been canning now for about 6 years now, and Texas is, out of all the main, out of the contiguous 48 states in the country, the largest. Where are they able to find you guys all across the entire state of Texas? And how is the distribution business in Texas, is given the size of the state?
Beer distribution in Texas is big business. So we do our own distribution in Austin and surrounding areas, like up to Waco and even San Antonio ourselves, which is a lot of work. Distribution is our biggest department, and we've done that since we started. We have 2 distributors in Houston and in College Station Temple, which is small. It's probably, we probably do like 80% of our volume ourselves, roughly. But we don't have beer in Dallas and Fort Worth. We were distributing there ourselves. It's a lot of work. I think it's not illegal now, but it was illegal for us to have a separate warehouse to supply Dallas and Fort Worth that wasn't our production facility. So there's a lot of the laws don't make it easy. We have a large enough cap, fortunately, to be able to distribute ourselves. So we still have many thousands of barrels to grow into that we could do ourselves. But the state changed the law for us to sell our territory, which was legal. And we did it with our Houston distributors, but that's illegal now. So we'd have to give it to them, and but they could sell it to each other if they wanted to. So it kind of sucks for distribution deals in Texas. It's we sued the state and we lost. So that yeah,
boy.
that was like a 5-year deal, and
wow.
It went all the way to the Texas Supreme Court, and they decided not to hear the case. So
wow. I'll ask this one last question. I'm going to turn it over to Ken. As part of that, Texas Supreme Court basically not listening, is that basically the end of it, or is there any opportunity to take it any beyond that, or is the juice not worth the squeeze at that point?
That is above my pay grade. I don't know.
Fair enough. Fair. You know what? I actually use that same excuse at my job. I'm an engineering supervisor for a utility company, and I use that excuse many, many times. So I can empathize with that response. I like that response. That's a good one. So
thanks. Yeah. We'll see if anything happens, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who would pick it up and run with it after that. So
sure. Yep.
We'll see.
Understandable.
There is the legislation sessions starting next year.
Every state's different. That's all I know. when it comes to their legislature, I know that much. So.
I don't remember.
I'm going to go ahead and turn it over back to Ken. Go ahead.
Yeah. So 2022, this is your guys' 25th anniversary. 25 years in craft brewing, especially creating a brewery during a huge brewing slump in the United States. The late 90s, not necessarily known for, a brewery boom. What are you guys doing to celebrate this year for your 25th anniversary?
Well, we've been cranking them out, but we're clustering them together. We've got a bunch of pilsners that are all be available. We're going to have a outdoor pills bar that's all pills, all different pills. We'll have 6, maybe 7. And then a bunch of food trucks, live music, and just a lot of beer drinking on the 23rd of April. Yeah, 25 years is a big deal. I think we'll do some of the standard like Stein hoisting, brewery shenanigans and stuff. Probably some polka music, and a lot of beer drinking.
I asked this to our guests last week, and I want to bring it up to you just because you're celebrating. Usually, what comes with beer, like Steinhoisting, is games. What is the game that you think you could beat probably the rest of your coworkers in? That's a beer related game. So whether it's a Oktoberfest style game or something that you usually drink while you're playing like cornhole or beer pong, what are you going to kick my ass in this beer game?
Disc golf.
Disc golf. Oh, shit.
I mean, challenge accepted, Jen.
No, not at all.
I'm displayed now.
I tell you what, I am terrible at disc golf. As much as I have a PDGA number and I've played in tournaments, I am not good. I use it as an excuse to smoke a cigar. Because
smoke a cigar and drink a tall boy. That's what you're excuse.
I can't.
It's not what most of those people are smoking, though, Ken.
I know, but for me, like a round of disc golf takes about 2 hours for a good 18-hole course or a 24-hole course, like a full length course. So that's about the length of a cigar, 2 hours. So it kind of goes hand in hand for me. Which is why I play disc golf, because I'm outside, so I'm not really annoying anyone with cigar smoke. And that's for me. No, you would kick my ass. I'm throwing the same 5 discs that I've been throwing since 2004, and I'm still, I would always say AM4. Not even AM3. I'm still AM4. That bad. So you guys are doing your 25th anniversary. Now, you mentioned the beer that you brewed in Poland, which is kind of like a very, very low ABV type beer, almost like a table beer. Why do you think we don't see necessarily too many very low, I should say, sessionable beers here in the United States, whereas the complete opposite, like Dan's talking about drinking 18% in 108-degree weather. Why do you think we don't see that really low sessionable ABV beer?
It's got to be like, I don't know, if you're, for people that are maybe drinking like macro beer, but then they're also drinking some craft beer that they want to, like, I don't know, maybe get their money's worth and get something with some higher alcohol or something, maybe is like the only thing I can think of. But I don't know. I love low gravity beers. I drink probably the most Grodzisky by volume than any of our beers. Pils is very close.
What about your guests?
I don't know.
Do your guests see that and do they get scared away by the low ABV because they want, if they're going to spend the money on a beer, they want a little kick to it? I
don't think so. I mean, for that with the Grods, the smoke is probably the deterrent there. But we make like a 3% non-smoked Grods, basically non-smoky Grods, really herbally, pretty bitter, all wheat, 3% beer, cleanest beer in the summertime. And the average ABV on the tap wall board as the temperature starts climbing is definitely dropping. I think we were averaging like right around 4% of all the beers. We had several that were under, and then I think Hefeweizen is the booziest beer that we have on in the summertime normally. So I don't know, we stay pretty low, and people move through the low gravity beers when we have them on tap. We try not to have too many at once, but so we spread them out. But yeah, it's nice to have an option. I mean, and it seems like, more and more there's low. I mean, like Lone Star made 24/7 a couple years ago, and that's a 2.9% Lone Star beer that you can get anywhere, any bar that carries it. So it's like there's low gravity beers out there, and then more non-alcoholic beers, more non-alcoholic craft beers with lots of hops in there that taste good.
Yeah, if this is your
So
first time listening to the show because Live Oak brought you in and you wanted to hear about, from Dusan here, go check out a lot of our older episodes just because I have been drinking NA beers since September. And I've probably had nearly every single one that you can at least get in the state of Michigan that isn't an IPA, I should say. I have one more question before we kind of finish the show and get into our final questions for everyone. So this is my goal to prepare everyone to ask their final question of you before we let you go. But we were doing a little research on you, and I wanted to know who is Mr. Zygote?
It's like my illustration website. I was doing illustration and design and stuff before I started working at Live Oak, and continue to do it for a lot of our taproom beers and stuff. That was a name that came out from just like an earlier version of like the Mr. Universe competition, but like for zygotes. So it's like the first competition that you can do as a zygote life form. So it was the reigning champion of that competition.
Wonderful. Well, as we end the show, everyone's going to ask you a final question before we let you go. We're going to start with Dan. Dan, what's your final question?
All right. Ken actually passed this question over to me. Since you do a lot of lagers, do you ever do an alt beer, and would you ever make a smoked alt beer if you could?
We did that for our one of our ex-employees, Mr. Zach Hill, was for years wanted this beer to get made. We made a shtick of alt when he left at the end of end of 2020. So we did make one, and it turned out pretty good. We got some ale yeast, some Kolsch yeast from the St. Elmo team to make that one happen, and it turned out pretty good. But that was our first one, our first alt beer, and that was after 23 years. So we finally did one.
My goal is to get every brewery in the state of Michigan to brew an alt beer. Nick, what's your final question?
What beer is in your fridge that is not a Live Oak Brewing beer that you will be drinking this weekend? I think I stumped somebody, guys.
Well, my friend Nico sent me some of his. Believe it or not, I've got an IPA that I'm gonna drink. Big Doinks. It's an all Columbus IPA that I love, and I have one of those that I'm going to be drinking. I drink a fair amount of Guinness, believe it or not.
Oh, there we go.
Also kind of falls into the low gravity cat. Oh, how was that? For those that are not able to watch and they're just listening, Ken just held up a Guinness Zero up on the screen.
It's really good. It goes down for me, like when everyone talks about how thick a Guinness is, this goes down like a regular, like a person drinking Guinness. It's so good, so smooth, so silky. It's even got like whenever you crack open a Guinness can and that first rush of beer pops up and head, and you're like, oh my god, it's gonna overflow. That's definitely the same experience you get here. But yeah,
is it nitro?
Yeah, it's nitro.
Oh damn, the old nitro NA.
I love it. I'm excited for it. I'm glad I found another 4-pack at the store that I went to a couple days ago. But Wendy, what's your question?
What is the next beer that you are really excited to make?
Let's see. We're going to be making a rice adjunct beer, which we haven't done yet. Kind of similar to corn, but it'll be right. We've got some rice grits that we'll be making a beer for. Very light, super dry pills for the doldrums of the summer that we'll be brewing here in about a month or so. So I'm looking forward to cooking some rice and seeing what that's like.
Yeah, right. That's all right. So my final question, now that I know you're a disc golfer, I did see that you guys do a lot of collaboration with Mint, who hosts a putting league over there. Do you throw any other companies, any Discraft in your bag, or Latitude, or?
I used to throw a lot of Innova, and Westside discs.
Okay.
But I've been, the Mint guys came out with a couple new discs over the last 12, 16 months. And there's like maybe one more empty slot for understable mid-range. But my bag is full of Mint.
I throw my main driver is a Z Tracker from Discraft, and then my mid range, I don't know what it is, but I love it. I have this DX Shark that I've been throwing for a good 15 years, and this thing flies straight 200 feet, easy, love it. I actually lost it in Dallas. Kind of like what you guys have, maybe not a big cliff like the Colorado River, but a cliff nonetheless, to where that disc went into the water, and I get a call, and I was going to be in Dallas like a month later. The guy saved it. I gave him like a $25 buzz for this beat up piece of trash DX Shark, because it's that one disc that you just you never want to lose. So he ran a putting league too, so I'm like, you know what, a buzz isn't a bad free disc for someone just to throw for an indoor putting league. But
for sure, one of the best discs ever.
Oh yeah, it's a great. I wish I would have kept it, but I gotta stick by. But that's gonna do it for episode 253, Better on Draft podcast. Live Oak. They can find you online on Instagram. I believe your Instagram is. I have it right on the video, Live Oak Brewing. They can find you on your website. Go play disc golf. You're open 7 days a week, I believe, correct?
Yep.
Awesome.
12 the varying closing times.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Have fun. If you're in the Austin area, April 25th, I believe you said, go check it out. 23rd, 25th anniversary, 23rd. Go check them out. And no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.